Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. The first socio-economic census of independent India was released today. This most significant and important exercise, launched during the previous UPA government's rule in 2011, is poised to make a dramatic difference to the entire planning process as well as targeting and implementation of social welfare and anti-poverty programs. The census figures released today was for rural India, where it is now ascertained that 73% of the households live. And among 17.91 crore of the rural households, about 50% of them, 8.69 crores, come under the deprived category, needing targeted programs to lift them out of their state of deprivation. A shocking 51% in rural areas earn their livelihood through casual manual labor. And more interestingly, only 30% of them earn through cultivation, which may mean only 30% own land. It is also significant that almost 75% of the rural households have the highest earning member earning less than 5,000 rupees per month. Also, only 4.6% of all rural households pay income tax. Many other similarly important data has emerged out of this census. However, the caste census, which was done simultaneously with the socio-economic census as well as the urban household census outcome, is yet to be released. We will look at the rural household census today and discuss what it means and how it would help the planning and implementation process. To discuss this, I have with me N.C.Saxena, a former member Planning Commission, who has also held many other key positions in the government as well as outside. Praveen, professor at the Center for Economic Studies and Planning at the JNU, and Vinod Sharma, political editor, Hindustan Times. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Saxena, you had played a key role in creating this kind or ensuring that this kind of a census is undertaken. Now, when you see the results, does it surprise you at all?
In fact, our government had set up a committee in 2009 under my chairmanship as to how to determine who's poor, who's not in rural areas. And I had suggested the methodology, which has been partly accepted by government, in the sense that I had said you exclude some who have got a tractor or 3-bedroom house. You compulsorily include some, like the primitive tribes or like those who have got no source of income, those who are living without house. And the rest, which will be the majority, you find out, these are the 6 or 7 deprivations, you find out are they deprived on all the indicators or on some. Now, government has accepted my recommendation, but unfortunately, what I had suggested was do it in an open house, do it in a Gram Sabha meeting. Because if you send a surveyor to a person's house, chances are that the individual will not give a correct answer, or the surveyor himself might say, please give me 1,000 rupees, I am going to give you a incorrect answer. If you look at the results, my suspicion and my fears have been confirmed. Because
that is? What are the fears?
And I'll tell you. If you look at those who are automatically included, it says only...
automatically excluded?
Included.
Okay.
It shows less than 1%. Just about 16 lakh houses.
Right.
Now, government's own data shows that 2 crore households are without house. 2 crore. Now, here the number is only 16 lakhs.
16 lakhs.
16 only. If you look at the number of primitive tribes, that's also more than 16 lakhs. So therefore, it shows that the poorest people, because they could not bribe or they could not influence the system, they have been excluded.
But according to the ministry's statement, a press release today which has been issued, these things were supposed to have been taken care of. First, the enumerators go there, collect all the data, and then it's also put up at the panchayat level, seeking for objections to it, and they say that several lakhs of objections came, and 99% of them have been taken care of.
Well, on paper, the formalities have been completed, but only when this report is put on the website and names are on the website, then only we will know. I can only look at the results, and as I said, that the number of those who are included, compulsorily included, is so low that it throws a doubt on the entire survey. Similarly, If you look at the number of, out of 17 crore households, about 8 crore households have been excluded.
They are the automatically excluded.
Automatically excluded.
Because they come under one of those categories,
No,
the
in
parameters.
fact, that is totally in contradiction with the findings of the NSSO. If you look at the decile-wise data of NSSO, it shows that in rural areas, 70% households have got suffer from some deprivation or the other, and now you have 50% households that are excluding. Again, I have this suspicion that the poor have been excluded and the rich have been included.
The criteria for, just for the sake of the viewer, the criteria for exclusion in this socio-economic census were ownership of a motorized 2, 3, 4-wheeler or fishing boat, mechanized 3 or 4-wheeler agriculture equipment, Kisan credit card with credit limit of over 50,000 rupees, household member who is a government employee, households with non-agricultural enterprises registered with government, any member of household earning more than 10,000 rupees a month, anyone paying income tax, anyone paying professional tax, ownership of a refrigerator, landline phone, 2.5 acres of irrigation land, 5 acres of or more of irrigation.
This is exactly what I had suggested.
So they have
accepted this.
They have accepted this, and now they say according to this, more than 50% are excluded.
That is not borne out by other field studies. I'll give an example.
Other field studies done by the government,
anthropologists, done by NSSO, that 50% households will fall in this category. That has not. It is not correct at all. I'll give an example here. When I looked at the data of this place in close to Gurgaon, what's his name? Mewat. Mewat data showed that in Mewat only 20% people are poor, are deprived. Now, we all know Mewat is one of the poorest
districts in the region,
but
the country.
It showed only 20%. It means that the poor people could not approach government, could not approach the surveyor, and they have been excluded. So only when this list is put on the website, then we will know. I'll be very happy if I'm proved to be wrong.
You'll be happy if it's proved to be wrong. But Praveen, I was just going through whatever has been put on the. There have been, in several states, the final data has already been released, and the names of individual households, all this data is available right now of some states, not all the states, of some states. Mm-hmm. So, that should give people like you, more access to understand what it is. But the question is this, that if you leave aside the concerns expressed by by Mr. Saxena, you think that this is something which will be very helpful for the planning and implementation process?
See, if the quality of data is something that we can rely on, certainly. Yes. There's no question about it that it would be helpful. And as Dr. Saxena mentioned, that this was based on a series of deliberations in which even Dr. Saxena had played a key role, and subsequently there was a committee which was there to give inputs to this particular expert group, socio-economic and caste census, before the methodology was finalized. So, based on a lot of careful deliberation.
Sorry to intervene. One clarification. This was not done by the Census Authority.
No, it was done by three different ministries. Yeah. So, but
the national, the Census Authority, Registrar General of Census did not have a role to play in this.
No. It was Ministry of Rural Development, and you had two other agencies involved in it: Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, and
Statistics.
Registrar General Census of India carried out the caste census.
Okay.
Right. So there were three agencies.
Okay, that caste census is not available
yes,
anyway.
That's not available. So, but it was based on a lot of deliberation. So methodology seems as if if it has been done properly, then clearly one would say that it's a significant advance in terms of the way things have been done, the concerns of transparency, etc., were to be taken into account. But again, the question is, were they taken into account or not? As you rightly mentioned, that close to 1.24 crore claims and objections were received, yes, of which 99% apparently have been addressed. Right. On the other hand, in this country, given the power equations, given the kind of political economy that we have, can we really say that these would have been taken care of adequately? Had these been taken care of adequately, clearly what Dr. Saxena mentioned earlier, that only 92 lakhs, that's less than a crore.
16 lakhs.
16 lakhs. 16 lakhs, who sort of are
Automatically included.
Automatically included. Now,
So in
that
this country,
seems-
there are only
Yes.
16 lakhs who are
Yes.
completely deprived of any.
Yeah. So that's
rural area.
that
In
is
the rural area.
0.92%.
And no, anyways, 70 over 70% live in rural areas.
And this
So
is
it's only rural areas.
0.92% of the total households. Now that seems a bit of a, somewhat unbelievable number.
Under the Indira Awas Yojana, government has said that 2 crore households are without a house. And one of the criteria was that if you are without a house, you will be compulsorily included. So how is that? One ministry says 2 crores at one place, the same ministry does a survey and comes up with the figure of 16 lakhs, which includes all the primitive tribes, includes all the households living on alms and bonded labor, etc., etc.
Yes, Vinod?
Well, you see, I think the points which Mr. Saxena raised are quite legitimate, that there are doubts about the integrity of the survey, that to what extent this survey has been honest in compiling data. And if it is not corrected, then policy implementation would be equally defective. And the very purpose of this survey would be lost. But having said that, it is a vast improvement, at least in terms of the methodology adopted over the poverty line, paradigm, which has been abandoned since. And if I am not wrong, it was an IMF subscribed paradigm, and this survey is an indigenous product, and maybe that it can be a model for the rest of the world or other countries which are, faced with the problems of acute poverty. Secondly, the survey, the modus for the survey, which was suggested by Mr. Saxena, that it should be done in an open chopal in a panchayat house, and in panchayat premises, made a lot of sense because surveyors in India have been less than scientific and less than committed.
Less than rigorous.
And when they have to travel 50
Less
to
than
100,
rigorous would
and
be-
if they have to travel 50 to 100 kilometers, in some cases maybe 200 kilometers to approach a village, they are rather in a hurry to catch the bus back home, and I think that is where the fault lies. That is where the fault lies. And we'd have to see now rag pickers, people without a job, people without a house, people without, there are families, where there are, specially endowed, challenged people, physically challenged people. There is one earning hand and who's physically challenged, and he doesn't have a job after some time, he has a job at some time. So there are various criterion. So the whole methodology was very scientific, and it will give you poverty in terms of degree. What degree of poverty people are suffering from and what degree of help they require. So that methodology is perfect, but whether the data collected through that methodology is right, I think the government will have to take another look.
No, I will give you another example here.
Yeah. I have a very important question. If you could
But
please
let me give you an example here. The government's own data shows, government has said it so many times, that the number of women-headed households in rural India is 8%. Okay, that is 8% households are rural. Now 17 crore households, 8% would be around 1.2 crores, right? Now the number which has come out is only 68 lakhs. So again, you can see that government says 8%, although many civil society feel it's more than 8% because men have migrated, they are doing other work, but still, okay, let's take government's figure 8%. It shows only 4%. So I do not know how the government did not verify this data with its own data. How come you can have two sets of data? Whether it is a women-headed households or it is on primitive tribes or without people without houses, this is not correct.
Okay, I have one more question. Very interesting question has already been raised after this.
Yeah.
People who have been, opposing this whole national food security and things like that, now they are coming out. Their argument is that this data very clearly indicates that the National Food Security Act's intention of providing providing to the 75% of the rural households is completely faulty because according to this data, only 50% are deprived.
Well, the National Food Security Act was based on the NSSO data. NSSO data showed they have given consumption of each decile, it showed that if this is the poverty line, then 30% or 25% people are below poverty line in rural areas. But if you go up to the 7th decile, then you find the 7th decile people, they are above poverty line only by about 30-40%. So that is, their income is just about 40% more than the poverty line. And this also keeps on fluctuating. So therefore, to say that NFSA data was NFSA based on wrong assumptions, I don't think it is correct, because NFSA data, NFSA decision was based on government's own data.
Also,
Yes,
if you look at this, in any case, shows that close to 52% of households in rural areas are manual, casual
laborers.
Right? Now, that itself tells you that you have more than half the population which probably needs food security support. And over and above
this manual casual labor is something
Yes.
which is not available 365 days a year.
Yes.
It is
Right. So I think this data certainly would not go against the spirit of all those who argued that it should be close to 70% or 67% or, the numbers that we have been talking about as regards support in terms of basic food entitlement. Yeah. But, I think, if you look at what had been suggested, that it should first the enumerator goes, and it was done through electronic mechanism, as you know, but it was supposed to be verified immediately in Gram Sabha, Chaupal, and so on and so forth. To what extent it was done? That is the question.
They say that it was all done.
Yes.
All that process happened.
That's what I'm saying. In terms of methodology, it seems as if, things were taken into account, concerns were taken into account. But again, the information which is coming out
because of the mismatch in government in the data which coming from two different government sources.
Partly that.
Is that the major concern?
Yes, that certainly is a significant concern. And even in an a-priorized sense, there are issues which we need to be aware of and sensitive to.
Like what?
For instance, when it says that people would complain and so on, what percentage of population you think will go and complain? What percentage? This data itself tells you that in almost 25% of the households, the adult literacy, head of the household is illiterate or something like that. Now, who do you expect to go wherever this information has been displayed and make a complaint and so on? So, is there an independent agency which was taking note of these concerns to make sure that whatever are the possible problems in terms of underreporting, in terms of not capturing the extent of deprivation, etc., that those would have been taken care of? So I think these are very genuine apprehensions.
Okay.
So,
Vinod?
You see, if this is applied, if this data is applied and there are questions about this data, then there could be serious, possibility of serious controversies for and against food security, for and against Manrega. Because
for and against Land Acquisition Act.
For and against Land Acquisition Act. May I say one thing? That there is already a debate happening in this country, and obviously there is international pressure behind that debate, that to what extent the Indian economy can be providing these cushions to the people. Well, India is a special case, and we have done this survey in a very special way. And I think that it is incumbent upon the current government not to blindly follow this data, do some ground checks again in order to be able to come to a determination whether certain schemes which are meant to provide relief to people require a
to the
fund
most
cut,
deprived people.
or whether, of course, because already Manrega is under, the funding for Manrega has been curtailed to a large extent. And there is also a big debate. Various excuses are given about food security. Then what will happen if there is a drought situation? That we'll have to pick up food from abroad. That it will have an escalating effect on the prices of food worldwide. India being a big customer.
There is another problem. Let me see on food security. Many state governments are not willing to revise the existing list according to the new survey. This survey has been done in the states. Now, Government of India and the Ministry of Food has been asking the states that please, you have an old list. Now revise that list according to this. The states are not willing.
No, sir. Another question is Antyodaya Anna Yojana. We discussed this on this program a couple of days back. there is a government circular which has come out saying that no more increase in the number of beneficiaries as far as and now. If from this data, can you make out how much will be the beneficiaries of this Antyodaya scheme at all?
Well, because Antyodaya scheme, the number is fixed at 25 million, 2.5 crores.
Right.
Government says they will not increase. Now, from this one does not know how many households are deprived in all the 7
In all
indicators.
7 this thing.
And how many are on 6, etc. So assuming that this data is correct, then what should be done is to
No,
revise.
is that 16 lakh figure which you said is
That is those who are automatically included.
that's right.
That's
which
it,
means
that-
that they are the
They
poorest to the
qualify
poor.
on merits of poverty. you
Which
know.
means they are poorest to the poor.
Poorest to the
Is that the Antyodaya number now?
No. Antyodaya number is 2.5 crores.
Okay.
Antyodaya number cannot be less than 2.5 according to the
Sir,
Act.
we need to move ahead. Now the question of one of the things one of the important data which has come out is 30.10% depend on crop cultivation for sustenance. They are known as cultivators. About 30% of them are cultivators. One of the interpretation of this is that, which means that only 30% are landowners in rural India. Would you accept that argument?
Well, it depends upon how you define cultivation. Because often a person who has got just half an acre or 1 acre of land, he is dependent more on wage labor than on cultivation. So therefore, if you say that 50% or more income should come from cultivation, then only you are a cultivator, then this number may be correct. Because already we are saying that only 40% of the households, 45% I think, households are doing cultivation. The rest are dependent either on wage labor, on agriculture itself,
Wage labor
or
on agriculture.
non-farm labor.
Farm, non-farm, mixed.
Non-farm labor.
So this 30%, so can we take it that only 30% of the people own land in rural India?
No, that I don't
30% of
think.
the households.
No. Listen, you already have the one information which says landless households deriving a major part of their income, and that is about 30%. Right? So obviously there are a few households, or I mean actually considerable number, because your manual casual labor is 51.1. So there must be a
Also,
significant percentage which owns small plots of land, but who have to rely
Depend on-
to a large extent on manual casual labor.
In fact, Census has also given, agriculture census gives the number of how many households have got land, and also they give how many less than 1 acre, how many 1 to 5 acres, etc.
Right.
So on and so forth. That is much more reliable than this one. I think 30% is very low. I don't think this number would have declined in the last 4 years from 50% to 30%.
It was 50% for 4 years back?
2011, yeah.
No,
In the 2011 census.
2011.
You get that data from the census and also from the NSSO, and both give you a slightly higher figure.
So there was a need for merging all this data or cross-checking all this data before releasing it, you think?
I mean, I think some data has been collected, and you see, cross-checking probably would not help you rectify too much because the methodology has been different, and as a result of that, I think it's good. It's good for the researchers that you have all these in the public domain, and then one can ask as regards what could be the next step to make it more credible.
Cross-checking, there is another problem with cross-checking because at the ground level, at the district, even at the district level, you do not have the data collected by the census and others village-wise. So therefore, that is another problem. You cannot do this kind of. We know the overall number. It was 50%. Now it is only 30%. But exactly who are the people? From the NSSO and census, it's very difficult to do.
No, but at the end of the day, you think NSSO is more reliable, or this would be more reliable?
Well, we will know this only after about 6 months or so, because once this list is announced and people start getting some benefit or not getting benefit, then only we will know.
Mr. Sen, I
as
can
of
ask you a
now,
question on this.
Yeah, no, let me just complete. As of now, most schemes are universal. ICDS, NRHM, SSA, etc. Now, the only scheme which will be affected by this is the food security scheme.
Right.
Food security scheme has been already applied to 13 states, and after March 2014, there has been no addition to that list. Now, the government...
If going by this, there will not be any addition.
Perhaps.
To this. In fact, there'll be a deletion from this list.
Government of India says the states are very reluctant to change their old list as per this new list. So states have done this survey. They should, if this is correct, they should revise it. They are not doing it. So therefore, it is quite likely that this list, its application, will not be as wide as we are thinking it should be. So if its application is not very wide, then this will remain, closed chapter. No one would know about this.
Also, let me add one more point in this context. You see, it has generated a lot of information, and we will get to know quite a lot about in the coming days. But on many major indicators, I don't think there will be too much of a difference.
Too much of difference?
Too much of a difference between, let's say, the NSS and this. For instance, casual labor and things like that. The difference would be maybe a couple of percentage here and there.
That can be taken care of.
Also, the definitions are different. So, in that sense, the precise definitions employed in these different surveys. So, I mean, to say that that is more credible and this is less credible and so on and so forth, at this stage is possibly a bit early.
At some point of time, there needs to be a reconciliation.
Certainly. There should be an attempt.
Okay.
And researchers will certainly try and do that.
Okay. Vinod, please, quickly.
Saxena, you see, in most parts of, states which are, where the economy is basically agrarian, the people, the landowners are not actually the tillers, I mean, they give the lands away to other people to do the tilling, and they get a certain amount of fee.
Does that get...
It is happening on a pretty large scale in Punjab, for instance.
Actually, the nature of tenancy and sharecropping has changed.
Okay.
For 50 years back, I'm a landowner, I'm living in the city, or I'm take no interest. Now what is happening in Punjab, Haryana and Western UP, the prosperous areas is, I'm a farmer, I do all the capital investment, I buy fertilizer, I pay for electricity, etc. I hire labor and hire labor on a basis of crop sharing.
Okay.
So that is, and this is seasonal. It is not a lifelong thing.
Okay, sir.
So there is reverse tenancy.
Sorry,
it is not tenancy. Then.
Sorry, we're running out of time. Very quickly, Vinod, caste census has yet to come out. You think that the government is keen to bring out the caste, and what will be the impact of it?
They will be, Indira Gandhi kept the Mandal report for long years, did not open it. And there were good reasons for that. Vishwanath Pratap Singh came and he opened it. Now, caste census is a very slippery road. If the caste census shows that the Jat community is not poor, it is prosperous, then would this government be able to give them a reservation which they are seeking, and would they be convinced that we don't require reservation?
What is your opinion? So you think the caste census has to come out? And now that it has been done, how can it be kept in the wraps?
But it may be very embarrassing to the government because it will show all kinds of things.
Not just this government, to all governments.
To any government. The very fact that census was done in 2011 and still we do not have religion-wise breakup.
Right.
It does show that government is very hesitant. To declare such
very
results.
quickly.
In any case, you see, this was done to a large extent because of a lot of pressure by middle rung of powerful castes. So, in some sense, there would be a lot of pressure to bring it out.
Okay.
Whether it happens or not is a different issue.
Okay, I think on that note, we'll need to end. This is a census which will need much more discussion, but very interesting things have come out of this discussion today. And hopefully, in the coming days and weeks, we'll get to know more and more about this. And by that time, if we can have the caste census before us, then that will be a completely different issue. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture. Same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.